Please, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. You're all welcome to the SIV webinar series of the University College of Water Science and Engineering. Our topic for today will be the journey of a career woman in developing world, empowering women and the youth. So I would like to invite Madam Miriam to introduce our guest speaker for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good morning all, good afternoon or evening wherever you are. I'm Mariam Shuaibu Hassan and I'm going to give a brief biography of our speaker, who is a physical geographer, a climate activist and educationist. So Dr. Nausheen Mazhar is the chairperson and associate professor of the geography department at Lahore College for Women University, Lahore. And she also leads the International Resource Center at DFDI. She is a passionate climate activist who focuses on desert ecosystems, dryland ecology, and rural livelihoods and climate change. She is doing so by integrating research with real-world solutions. With a fellowship from the University of Leeds in the UK, she has made a significant contribution to policy, serving as a member of the panel of experts for the Punjab climate change policy. She was also a contributing author to the IPCC's sixth assessment report. Dr. Mazhar's academic journey includes 4 gold medals, 2 Rolls of Honor, and prestigious indigenous and IRSIP scholarships from HEC. She's also an advocate for climate action. She has spoken at platforms such as the Oxford Desert Conference, the FBAS 2024, the TEDx LCW Countdown, and numerous media and academic forums, including Alhambra Arts Council, Foreman Christian College, and UET Lahore. That's a brief introduction to our speaker. We are so privileged and honored to have you, Doctor. Thank you.
Shall I start?
Yes, please, you can share your screen.
Thank you so much, Mariam, for a very elaborative introduction of mine. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. It's indeed a privilege to be addressing my fellows, students, youth, females, because I'll be speaking about women empowerment today, especially from Africa. So a very good morning to all of you. It's afternoon here in Asia, Pakistan. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks.
It's visible.
So we're all set. Shall I start?
Yes, please, you can start.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about journey of a career woman in a developing world, empowering women and youth. I'm Dr. Nausheen Mazhar, and Mariam has introduced me very well to you, so I won't go into the details, and I'll share the agenda of today's presentation with you. Firstly, I would like to talk about briefly what's the current landscape for women and youth, especially in the developing world. What are the challenges and opportunities that we are facing at the moment? Then we'll be briefly talking about what are the strategies for empowerment. How can we build ourselves to be more enabled professionals by focusing on our skill building, by focusing on the qualitative trait of mentorship and leadership. Then we'll be talking about a very basic phenomena because all the women mostly are also the caretakers and they're the family makers. So how do we balance the career, family, and at the same time keep working on self-development? We'll be looking briefly at the role of technology and entrepreneurship in empowering women and youth. Then I'll be sharing my success story And in the end, I'll be sharing an empowerment message with all of you. So, I would like to begin with a very intense quote that there is no force more powerful than a woman who is determined to rise. Dubious gave this quote, and it's true that when a woman gets determined about achieving any particular goal, there is no power on planet Earth that can stop her. I would like to share another very important quote by Jawaharlal Nehru, and he said that to awaken the people, it is the woman who must be awakened. Because once she is on the move, the family moves, the village moves, and then the nation moves. So, in order to bring change, especially in the developing countries, the women need to be enlightened and they need to be empowered. So, I'll begin with a brief introduction. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report, there's a huge gap between the both the genders. I'm just talking about two genders in this today's presentation, that's male and the female. And this report says that it will take approximately 132 years to close the global gender gap at the current rate of progress. 132, that's massive. When we're trying to achieve the 2030 agenda in the next 7 years, this 132 years is a huge, huge gap. In many countries, the cultural norms still dictate that women should focus on the household duties. For example, in Pakistan, only 22% of the women participate in the labor force compared 82% of the men. These 22% of the women who do participate in the labor force are not exempted completely from the household duties. UNESCO also shares a very important figure with us. Approximately 129 million girls are out of school worldwide, including 32 million of the primary school age. It's a well known fact that the children, especially the girls, even if they get the primary education, that builds a foundation in their minds which keeps them mature enough to take good decisions and be beneficial for their family for their entire life. So just consider these 32 million people, especially girls of school going age, out of school. Then women are also underrepresented in the STEM fields globally. Only 28% of the world's researchers are women. Then again, gender discrimination is quite visible through these facts. Women are 20% less likely to be employed as compared to men. And when they're employed, they get 20% less earning, which is the wages. And this is a fact that is being quoted by International Labour Organization. Women often have less access to professional networks. According to a LinkedIn study, women are 28% less likely than men to have a strong network. And I would blame the different responsibilities which are associated with the social norms responsible for that. Because when a woman is at work, she still at the back of her mind is thinking about her children, is thinking about are they back from their school? Do they have enough food to eat? Is their home good enough and comfortable for them to hold them there? And are they engaged in good activities by the time she goes back? All of these prevent her to have good communication with professionals across the globe. And that is quite visible from the facts that are being shared in this LinkedIn study. Then, according to the World Economic Forum, there's lack of childcare and family leave policies which significantly impact the woman's ability to work. United States, the biggest power at the moment, only has 21% of the workers who have access to paid family leave. These are important facts that I've shared, and I will be embarking upon them time and again during my presentation. So, by sharing with you what the current stage and scenario for female empowerment is, I take you towards the concept why it's important for the females across the globe to be empowered, to show that they are powerful, and to perform well. you would all agree to me that we all are performing in our particular domains. Then why is this performance important for empowerment? If we look at this diagram and we start focusing from performance, it leads to impact. Impact can be in any form. If we take the example of a woman who is a housewife, the way she cooks for the family, she takes care of the ill, she teaches the children at home, she ensures everybody is going at time to their workplaces, she's leaving an impact on the family. She's a caregiver, she's the driver of the home. And what in turn she's doing, she's empowering the entire household. And then, if she pursues a career, if you look at the right hand side of this diagram, in that career, what's she doing? She's gaining economic freedom. And in the upcoming slides, I'll be talking about this economic freedom. That once a woman becomes economically independent, she's spending more on the family rather than investing on her own self. So, once again, this economic freedom and her career growth are contributing to her empowerment. And yet again, I will strengthen upon the same point. When the woman gets empowered, the entire household gets empowered. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's presentation. So, let's talk about what kinds of empowerment are there. So, it has three basic components. The first and the foremost is social empowerment. Then comes economical, and in the end comes the political empowerment. And I'll be briefly talking about this type of empowerment journey of mine when I'll be sharing my own particular success story with you all. So it all begins with the social empowerment. When your society, especially your household, is strengthening you, supporting you at various platforms, and is behind your back to support you. Once you become socially empowered, then
Thanks,
you
Prof.
are
Empowerment.
able to
Prof
pursue
can bring up.
career. You're able
That's
to
the
pursue a
social,
career
economical, political.
and you become economically empowered. And once a woman becomes economically empowered, then comes the time when she's able to become a part of various policy making groups. She can be a representative at various political platforms and then play a powerful role in decision making and be a spokesperson for the rights of the other women in the society. So, what are the opportunities for empowerment that we have around? Well, the situation is not that bleak. Over the last 25 years, we have seen that the girls' education has improved globally. But let's not forget, we're talking about the major urban agglomerations or urban centers at the moment. Still, the rural households and the rural areas are far behind such kind of educational facilities for the girls. But if we talk about the urban centers across the globe, the schools enrolled number of girls have risen to 180 million since 1995, and that's a UNESCO figure. During the pandemic, that's the COVID, there was a digital revolution in education specifically, and this led to flexible and inclusive education solutions. So that was the time when most of the girls got opportunity to become part of the educational agenda, educational arena, and they started becoming the part of the number that we just mentioned in the previous bullet point. And then I would like to share that information and communication technologies, that's the ICTs, has shared that empowered women by providing access to education, health, information, and professional networks can play a very significant role in policy making, and decision making across the world. So, in order to become empowered, what needs to be do? What needs to be done? Well, first of all, we have to start talking about gender equality, or at least let's put it into this word, um, respect. Respect of every gender is essential to establish a good society. Then the women need to change their access to and control over resources. It's the responsibility of the societies, the social infrastructures of different countries, especially the developing world, to start giving some power to the women of the households to have some control over the resources. If not control, it can go in a in a mutual coordination kind of a way, where both the male members and the female members of the family can go hand in hand by discussion, coming at the same point, and having mutual decisions. We can give our children a better and a more strengthened example of a good quality household. So, women's control over decision making has to be shown to the world now. And then again, I would say that it's not necessary that the woman needs to be emerging as a leader in the household, but at least her voice needs to be heard in decent manner. It needs to be heard. It needs to be given some weightage, and it needs to be understood and sometimes responded as well. Then there needs to be some changes in the woman's labor patterns, especially in the developing world. Like I mentioned previously, the household chores are totally associated with the females. The females also have been blessed by the creator with great kinds of abilities. They are natural leaders, they're natural drivers, and they manage situations in a much nicer way. But then there are certain situations where the men are able to handle the situations more brilliantly. So, what I would suggest by sharing this slide is that women and men should be a part of the decision making process of the household and the district and the country and the world side by side. So, the changes in the woman's mobility and social interaction also needs to be changed, especially in the developing world. You will all agree that in the developing world, there are lots of security dangers for the female. It's considered like a taboo, or it's considered dangerous for a woman to stay outside the home in the evening hours, let alone night. And it's not considered good that she's having social interactions at evening or having dinners, as either they are official dinners or anything else. So we need to change our mindset, and we need to educate ourselves, and we also need to at the same time try to limit the social interaction which is related to the workplace in the flexible morning hours or the afternoon hours. So together, by trying to accommodate the female, the women can become empowered and they can play their role in the national progress and the international agenda of the SDG attainment. So we've talked much about the the women empowerment. Briefly, let me touch upon the youth empowerment as well. According to the United Nations, there are approximately 1.2 billion young people that are aged 15 to 24 years, and they account for 16% of the global population. So we need to provide a welcoming and safe environment for this 16% of the global population. How can we do that? Let's have a look at the diagram. Initially, we have to ensure that there is equitable power sharing between youth and adults. In the developing countries, mostly the adults keep on saying one thing again and again, that we have more experience than you're just children, and your say cannot be in the decision making processes. We need to train our youth to be powerful enough to contribute to decision making, to contribute to help us in hours of need. And that can only be done if we train them enough to handle the power and to maturely respond to such situations. Then we need to go towards social cohesion by engaging them in critical reflection on interpersonal and social context. In this way, I would also like to say that they need to be trained how to use social media responsible way, in a responsible manner. Their social action projects in the universities also ensure how they respond to the society and its issues. So they need to participate in social processes of change, in different movements that are going on in your society. Youth need to be a part of that. Yet again, it's the responsibility of the adults to tell them about their boundaries, to tell them time again about what's good for them and what's bad for them. Then there should also be recreational activities for the youth. Meaningful participation and engagement in terms of recreation will make them more responsible citizens, will make them more beneficial for the society and the world at large, so that we can take full advantage of the 16% of the global population. So once I've talked about the women and the youth empowerment, let's look briefly what can be the strategies for empowering them. The first one is skill development and lifelong learning. And for that, continuous education and professional growth is a must. Women and young women should remain competitive. Either the women are in the older span of their life or they're young, they should remain in competition. They should continue to learn the new technologies that are emerging in their particular fields of research or in their fields of agriculture or industrial development or NGOs, be it any platform. Continuous educational and professional growth is a must. The death of an individual basically occurs when he or she becomes stagnant in their approach to learn new things and to believe that they are at the prime and the supreme position of any particular concept. So, first point is this. Second one is to always keep on looking for mentorship and networking. For this, time and again, perhaps once a year or twice a year, you need to become a part of mentorship programs. For example, the Lean In Circles is an initiative that has been created, and it's a global community of over 50,000 circles, and it's encompassing 184 countries. What's the circle doing is it's supporting women in their professional growth. So, to begin with, we can become a part of the Lean In Circle, and we can choose the circle that fits our area of interest, and we can gain guidance from them. We can choose them as our mentors and learn good practices from them. Because seeing the role models who have overcome similar challenges can be incredibly empowering. So, having a mentor and staying connected with the people in your field with latest knowledge always helps in making women and youth empowered. Then we have to think about leadership and decision making training. The leadership training programs focus on building confidence, strategic thinking, and decision making skills. Organizations across the world, like the Women's Leadership Institute at UCLA, is providing such training to help women advance in their careers. Internships, volunteer positions, and project leadership roles are excellent ways to gain leadership experience. And one should always be trying to become a part of these online programs and gain expertise to become empowered. So I've talked about empowering some strategies. Now let's put ourselves into the shoes. I'm talking to all the women who are doing the household chores and are pursuing a career in their life. So what are the challenges for a working woman? There are the societal expectations and the gender roles. There are the pressures of excelling in both the fields, that's the family and the career. And there's the stress, the risk of stress of burnout. Most of you will be able uh, to agree with me that there might be many points in your career if you have reached that stage or you have witnessed a nearby career woman experiencing the same kind of stress that is coming from the family. I'll be quoting some of my personal examples as well in the upcoming slides. But this risk sometimes pushes the working woman to a point where they actually break, where they actually start facing health issues. Because at the end of the day, when she's done with taking care of everybody in the family, everybody at the workplace, it's she herself that she ignores the most. And that's the biggest evil that we are doing to our own self. And for this, we'll be talking about in the upcoming slides. So, what is the advice for the young woman today? We need to start planning for the future. We have to set some goals and targets for both our personal and the professional life. And we need to create a balance. There must be a time that's a personal time, and there must be a time that's for professional life. We have to communicate. We have to start sharing the responsibilities at home. We need to train our children. We need to train our in laws. We need to train our husbands that we need help for the household chores. If we keep taking everything on our shoulders, then we will be pushing ourselves to the breaking point, the tipping point, when our own health will start becoming affected. And then again, advice for young women is that we also need to be flexible. We need to keep adapting to the life stages, and we need to keep on shifting our priorities time and again. This flexibility and not rigidity will help us learn new technologies and use them efficiently for our benefit. So, what's the practical strategies for balancing? The first one is time management. You need to plan a day ahead. I'm specifically talking about the working woman at the time. You need to start using different tools that are available either on your cell phone or on your laptop for various tasks like commitments, Google Calendar, Trello, etc. And you need to keep on setting reminders for the most important things. The second most important domain is for setting the boundaries. There must be a dedicated time for your work and family. You need to start acting in a very professional manner, and you need to start prioritizing the tasks. Sometimes it might happen, and you might have faced this difficulty yourself, that in your family time you get a call for an online meeting, and it's extremely important that you respond to them. So what will you do in that situation? So you need to prioritize your task now based upon the environment at the home. If your husband or your family member is supportive enough to take care of the family for a few minutes, then you can switch towards your professionalism for a little time, address that, and then go back to family. But if you think that the situation is unavoidable, it's always good to be open and claim that this is my family time and I cannot respond to you at the moment. Could you please text and I'll be responding to you whenever I'm free? And then you need family and institutional support to be a good career woman, also a good wife. For that, you need your home support. You need flexible work policies, and you need paternity and maternity leaves. When I talk about flexible work policies, of course, this is not what is under our control directly because every institution has their own statutes. But what we can do is raise our voice time and again in a decent manner and report to the authorities the issues that we are going through and request them for any kind of support in this regard. And sometimes, trust me, it works. Let's talk about the role of technology in empowerment of women. Remote work opportunities, like flexibility for balancing work and home life, some of the digital tools for collaboration, like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, that we're using right now to connect to each other, continuous learning through online platforms like Coursera, LinkedIn Learning. These are various technological faces that can help the females and the youth across the world to keep up their pace with the world's advancement, to keep up their pace with the empowerment journey, and to keep up with leaving their footsteps, which other women can tread upon and learn similar manner of empowerment. Some of the tips for managing household and career by using technology. Well, you can use automating household tasks. You can use smart appliances to save your time. You can use virtual assistants. You can use grocery apps. You can make even a creating workspace at your home at the desktop of your mobile phone, for example. So, by taking help of such kind of technology, your efficiency at home and your workspace can be enhanced. Let's talk about briefly entrepreneurship. Women can become better entrepreneurs if they have access to finance, microloans, government incentives, if they have enough digital literacy and skills. Digital literacy in terms of digital marketing, technological awareness, that can be done through online learning. Then they can also become part of mentorship and networking programs. Some women led networks, mentorship programs, and community hubs, they can become part of that. Then leveraging technology like e-commerce, mobile banking, business management tools can also help make women better entrepreneurs. And last but not the least, educational and training. Vocational training, leadership workshops is what makes women better entrepreneurs. Something about youth entrepreneurship now. Leveraging technology for innovation, making technology easy to be accessed by the youth of the country, especially in the developing world, can make them more empowered. Digital tools for starting businesses can be shared. Such links can be shared at massive scale in the schools and colleges, especially in the developing countries. Building networks with minimal resources, such kind of projects can be launched at the university and the college sectors. Social media can be used for promotion of the mentorship program, such mentorship programs that can help the youth become better and empowered people. And then through social media, encouraging the female leadership campaigns can be launched. And the empowerment of the youth entrepreneurship can also be propagated through social media. So, how do we empower youth? Social attitudes need to change, gender roles need to change, and they are gradually changing. And they're leading to more support for women's education and professional careers. The shift is essential for creating an inclusive environment where women can thrive. Many countries are implementing policies to support the gender equality in education and the workplace. For example, initiatives to make schools more inclusive and policies encouraging pregnant girls to return to school are helping to reduce the gender disparities. So, such kind of initiatives where we support the students who have gone into the family life to come back at their own time of ease and join the educational career and continue it from there can help them become good and empowered women of the future. So, what's the power of empowerment? It has three kinds of impacts: economic, because women's participation grows the economies; the social impact, empowered women foster healthier and more educated communities and families; and then sustainability. Women lead in environmental conservation. They are more sustainable by nature. They think more about the waste they create, how they are behaving with the planet Earth, and what are the impacts they're leaving. So, this is the women empowerment, the power that we're talking about today. So, with this, I come to the end of my explanation about women and the youth empowerment. How can we lead towards it? And now I will be sharing briefly my success story as an empowered woman of a developing country. So, I will start my journey by briefly sharing my educational career with you. These are my childhood pictures. The center one is when I was in fifth grade in Karachi and I was awarded as a high achiever. And the last one is of my 10th grade when I topped in 1998, receiving my prize. Starting from top left is my graduation gold medal in the convocation. Then in the center is my master's gold medal in the convocation. Then towards the top right is my MS, that is MPhil degree convocation. Then bottom left is my PhD degree from University of Punjab. And then the next one is my postdoctorate, Punjab University once again. These are some of the credentials of my educational career. Here, I would like to share a very important concept with you. In the developing countries, mostly certain age groups for the females are associated as fit for the girls to get married. So when I was down the journey to MSc Geography, which is the fourth tier in the chart that I'm sharing right now, is the time when I was approaching my 21 to 22 years, and my parents, although my father is retired commander from Pakistan Navy, he was concerned about me getting married by that time, and they were looking for a good match at that time. So I really wanted to continue with my study and proceed with my MPhil and then my PhD. But that was the time that I would like to share that in a developing world, I was offered a full-time, fully funded PhD in Australia, but I was stopped by my parents that it's time for you to get married. You can continue with your studies after your education is done. After your marriage, you can continue with your education. So that was a big blow for me because I lost a very important opportunity at that time. But now, when I am a mother myself, I agreed to what my parents decided for me because that was the right time for me to get set with another household, learn their preferences, to fit into them, and then to proceed also with my aims, with my educational career and my professional development. So I give the credit of the entire rest of the tires. That's MA in English, MS in Geography, PhD, doctoral fellowship in England, postdoctorate, and postgraduate diplomas in GIS and HET to my husband, my father, and my mother in law, because they have been super supportive after my marriage. I am a mother of three kids, and during that time, they were by my back all the time to support me in raising the kids and at the same time continuing with my education and my professional development. So, this is a brief timeline of my professional career after my master's. That is when I was about to get married. I joined a school as an elementary teacher and I taught there for 1 year. Then I became head of Department of Geography at Garrison Postgraduate College, which is in Lahore, Kant. Then I became O-levels teacher at Lakas for 6 months. And then I became the subject specialist where I wrote the books for Afaq Lahore. And then in 2010, I joined Lahore College for Women University, where I'm currently serving as chairperson of geography and associate professor. And I'm now also serving as head of International Resource Center. Some of the honors and awards that I consider that being a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, I think were great achievements for me were that, first of all, I was the first HEC approved doctoral supervisor in my department. Then I was awarded the International Research Support Initiative Program, which is a very prestigious scholarship by HEC. Under this scholarship, I went to United Kingdom, University of Leeds, and I studied there for 6 months. This is the picture of my supervisors, Professor Dr. Lindsay Stringer and Martin Delema. I also have attained HSC Indigenous Scholarship during my doctoral time period. I also have 2 merit MSc scholarships on my credit, 4 gold medals, and 2 Roll of Honors during my academic journey. So once I became a professional, I started contributing to research. Up till now, I have published 36 publications in HSC approved journals. And my current impact factor is 16.3, and it will soon be going up. In the map, you're showing the countries that I've published so far and the categories of my journals where I've published as well. So one of the biggest achievement for me, being a climate activist and a climate science teacher, I've been teaching climate change studies since the past 12 years. And IPCC, that is the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, was a big shot for me. And I always kept reading its reports, and I always kept following its posts on the social media, and I always kept teaching my children using its reports. It was only possible back 2 years back in 2022 when I became the part of its working group too. And I was privileged enough to contribute as a contributing author in the cross chapter 3, which was desert, semi-arid areas and desertification. I've also contributed in Taylor and Francis group book, Environmental Impacts. I've contributed a chapter on that. I've also written books in my own country at elementary level. A recent chapter submitted to Encyclopedia of Disaster chapter, disaster risk reduction, is on desertification. I'm the lead author in that chapter as well. Then another contribution from my side is from my professional side, that I'm also the focal person of Sustainable Development Goal 11, which is sustainable communities in cities. And I've been gathering data regarding the activities on my campus and reporting them for Times Higher Education ranking. And under my leadership and 2 years contribution, now my university is being ranked in this particular SDG indicator of top 500 to 600 universities. These are the three particular SDGs on which my research is currently focused. I've also been a climate spokesperson at different platforms. TEDx LCW Countdown is one of my most favorite platforms, and I've been invited time and again over there. These are the links of 2 of my most famous TED Talks that I have given in 2001 and 2023. I've also given various media appearances as climate activist. I've been invited at various universities as keynote speaker, both internationally and nationally. And I've been speaking about the climate issues of my country at different platforms. Some of my major professional achievements is that I have served as the developer of the MS and the PhD geography programs in my department. I've developed the course outlines with the help of my colleagues at Geography Department LCW, and I proceeded with pleading the case at different platforms and got it approved through the Higher Education Commission, and then we advertised, and now we are successfully running these 2 most prestigious programs in my department. I'm the focal person of SDG 11. I'm also in charge of internationalization and linkage development in my department, and also at my university level. I'm convener of the Book of the Abstracts for different conferences. I've arranged successful events as in charge of Geography Society. And then I've taught some courses, lots of courses to various programs in my university. Some of the sessions that I have moderated in both national and international conferences. And I've been also the resource person for many international and national workshops. So the first project that I have won as a principal investigator is Paradot Research Grant, which is a 3.6 million grant, which I have won in 2023. And excuse me, am I still with you people?
Yes, doctor, we are with you.
Yes, we are with
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you. So I was telling you about this research project in which I'm working with the University of Paris, France, and my principal investigator from French side and me are working on geospatial assessment of water quality and sedimentation trends for sustainable power production in Tarbela Reservoir, Pakistan. Tarbela is the biggest earth rock-filled dam of Earth, and we are working on its sedimentation issues. So under this project, I visited Paris last year and I presented a seminar based on my contribution to the research by that time. Then later in the same year, my French counterpart came to Lahore and we arranged another successful seminar in which the scientific attaché from French embassy was also part. Some of the other research grants that I've applied recently are Nat Geo Society grants, IDRC, CRDI, HEC, some of the CPEC Collaborative Research Grant, and some American grants I've targeted this year, which are not a part of this slide at the moment. Then I have made some very significant contributions internationally in terms of conference presentation. Since I am an advocate of SDG 15.3 desertification and land degradation, my PhD and postdoctorate being in that particular domain, it was a hallmark in my career when I was invited at 6th Desert Conference back in 2023, where I presented the case of desertification in Pakistan. Then I was fortunate enough to become a part, invited as a keynote speaker in the special session, Big Data and Good Practices in Support of Land Degradation Neutrality, which was held in September in a conference called Forum for Big Data for Sustainable Development Goals, which was held in Beijing this year. And I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Amos Kaboba in this particular session. And me and Mr. Caesar and Mudar are now working on similar research domains. I would like to share a very significant breakthrough in my professional career. I would like you to go back in the slide when I shared that woman empowerment begins from her social sector. Then she becomes economically empowered, and then she becomes politically empowered. And when I talked about political, I told you that it's not in terms of being a part of any political party. It means you're a part of the decision making. It means you are being heard at the decision making platform. So when I returned from Oxford in 2023, I was offered a position to be a part of the member of panel of experts of Punjab climate change policy, which was being documented by Environmental Protection and Climate Change Department of Government of Punjab. And I've been working with them for the past 12 or 13 months, and we developed the Pakistan Climate Resilient Punjab Vision and Action Plan. It was approved by the provincial cabinet, and now it is being implemented at different sectors. And one of my biggest achievement was to convince the different panel members of this particular forum to make them realize that land degradation and desertification is a permanent and pertinent issue in the drylands, especially of the developing countries, where freshwater availability is a big question mark. And I was successful in making desertification a part of this official document. And now we are working on its action plan. I'm also a member of Pakistan Climate Resilience Research Coordination Network, that is basically a consortium of 12 universities of Pakistan, which is being led by University of Utah and University of Arizona, which has been established in 2022 under HESA USAID project. And we are working on climate resilience project making and application submissions at different platforms. And we're targeting the climate related issues in this regard. Some of my research contribution, I've worked on the same Tarbela Reservoir issues during my MS, which was my MPhil program. During my PhD, I worked on desertification and I used an unmanned aerial vehicle for the first time in my department for PhD study. And I monitored the crop health in different desertification intensity zone districts and tehsils. And then I mapped their soil health and crop health and tried to relate them with the desertification issues of these regions. These are some of the key words of my current research interests. I won't go into detail. Currently, me and my students are working on the rangeland management of the drylands. We are working on development of online portal to calculate the rate of desertification in different regions. And we are working on Tarbela sediment composition and its underwater delta advancement. So with this, I conclude my particular success story. And now I want you all to join me in call of action. We need mentorship. The females need mentorship. We need the female founders to come forward to transfer the knowledge and experience that they have and share them with the general public. We need to encourage the participation of other women who are vulnerable groups. We need to make them stand up for their rights in good, decent words, not at the same time disrupting the harmony of their households, but giving voice and vent to their emotions. Then we need to be advocate of the policy of change. We need to have flexible working hours. Gender equal pay is the concept that needs to come in the employment sector. That if a male is being paid a certain amount with the same kind of experience, a female should also be paid the same amount. We need to be working at the national level, especially in the developing countries, on the entrepreneurship policies. And we need to advocate the youth programs where volunteering time of the adults is needed. Resource sharing by the adults for the youth preparation is needed. We need to support youth empowerment in this regard. We need to be emphasizing and promoting the Girl Up STEM initiatives for young women across the world. And I would like to conclude my talk with a very inspirational quote by Mr. Napoleon. Give me an educated mother. I shall promise you the birth of a civilized and educated nation. With this, I thank you all and I open the house for questions. Any questions?
Thank you so much for this insightful presentation. So please, if there is any question, you can ask or you can type it in the question and answer section. Okay, you can talk.
Good morning, everyone. Um, Thank you so much, Dodd, for these powerful lectures. I came in late, but I followed quite closely from where I joined. And then my name is Amos Falasamukat. I'm from Liberia, currently in Monrovia. And I got some key interest in this presentation that you just made, knowing the fact that our country has faced a whole lot of challenges, not only our country, but our West African region, especially when we are talking about empowerment of women and youth. We have multi-factors that are leading to this process. The issue of limited access to resources, the issue of limited platforms to give them the opportunity that we all need to unhide our hidden potentials. Then the issue of appetite. When I talk about appetite, the issue of our young people themselves having the aspiration or the ambition to be empowered to learn more also comes into play. So I was like thinking like couple of your experience and what you have been through as a mother now from your from your youthful age. Now, in our context, what could be a specific solution or a way forward that we could engage those young people who are out there with limit or lack of appetite, lack of resources, limited platform, and no chances are available for them to even grow to become what they want to become. And the worst scenario is that most of them don't even identify or realize that they can become something else different from what they are. What can we do?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Amos, for sharing your thoughts from Liberia. You talked about the challenges that the youth and especially the females are facing in terms of limited resources, limited platforms of exposure, for example, that are being shared with them. Um, and you talked about appetite issues. We can put it into terms that unbalanced diet or dietary issues. And these are all very much prevalent in almost all the developing countries. And then you talked about what could be the possible solution. Well, I'm representing academia at the moment, and I have some say in the policy making group. And the only way through which I suggest that a solution can be suggested is to raise the voice at different platforms. Being a teacher, when I'm teaching in my class, I try to propagate the idea that um, uh, we need to promote social justice, we need to promote the sense of equity, and we need to promote what do we call that? Endurance. Endurance is needed in today's world. Then I talked about in my talk opportunities to be offered to youth. Social media is the most significant tool at the moment through which changes can be made, through which these solutions of empowerment can be shared with both the youth and the females. Of course, when we talk about the health issues, the undernutrition due to which many women across the developing world are going through uh, miscarriages or child loss at early age, even, for this, we need a social shift. We have to work together on emphasizing, bringing at the district level the findings of the researchers that which particular for example, groups are suffering time and again by food security issues. And if the people of the society are not able to respond to the situation themselves, they're not financially stable to feed their family, like female and the children, then of course the NGO sector, the government sector needs to be taken on board. And then again, it's the raising of the voice for justice is what's going to make the change. So I believe the solution for this situation that you mentioned is raising voice at your level, but again, staying in a domain of empathy, not being at an attacking stage. Raising your voice by taking into consideration the United Nations forums, what they're saying, the policies, and advocating your case by using their stance. So this is my suggestion how we can help youth and women to become empowered in the developing world. Hope I've answered the question.
So thank you so much. I have only two questions. Let me just give the last one and then I will be out
Yeah.
of your way. Um, Now to the issue that has to do with climate change.
Yeah.
I forgot to share this. I am the team leader of the African Youth Coalition here in Liberia. So
Hmm.
what we actually do, we empower youth as diplomat. We do advocacy for good governance, and then we train young people in becoming good democratic principle holders. So have this kind of a we have this kind of an idea of training females in becoming climate change negotiators. It is quite
Hmm.
frustrating knowing in our region that we only have like 21% of total females who are represented in all climate decision-making processes across the world from West Africa. and that's a very, very minute portion of the number of female we are having. So to work on this kind of a gap, we are currently designing a program to make sure that we train enough female who will become positive climate change policy makers at different national and regional level. But here is the thing: with the gap that is existing now, and with the level of female in terms of capacity level that we are having, we are thinking, what are the possibilities? Since you have had this kind of a wide experience in being a climate change policy expert, what are possible practical experience that we could share with them? First, the females, to attract them to this program, then next to maybe solicit support from other institutions to see the need to help bridge this gap in all different dimensions.
All right, Amos. The first part of your question was basically setting the stage for what you were about to say. So you mentioned about the gap
Yeah.
that is created, especially in the African climate governance, where only 21% of the females are perhaps representing the female side for climate negotiations at African
क्या
platforms.
चीज?
Yes, from West
Uh,
Africa.
yeah, and similar is the case in Pakistan, I would say, and in Asia as well, because
क्या कह
if
रही है
you take
मिस?
yourself, um, could everybody please
हाँ
mute
जी,
their
डॉक्टर
mic?
नशीन का वो चल रहा है ना?
Hira Shehbaz, can you please mute your phone? Thank you. All right. So I would say that even in Pakistan and in Asia, the representation of females is very minor. It's like I'm not quoting any statistics at the moment. I'm just giving a vague guess at the moment that approximately 2 or 3% of the female are truly representing in the climate policy at the moment, although it is being led by a female, because our the leader of the Ministry of Climate Change at the moment is a female. But at the grassroots level, it's mostly the men who are driving the truck. I would like to share a very interesting happening that happened in one of the meetings, where the Women Development Department of our province was trying to coordinate. We were at the stage of the policy, the climate change policy, where we were incorporating the woman and trying the gender representation to be ensured in each and every tier of our document. And when we were doing that thing, we had a special session held in the Women Development Department of Punjab, and we had all the stakeholders from different government representatives, like the transport department, the forest, the irrigation, UNESCO, UNEP, and everybody was there. And we were sitting and discussing the need for this initiative to add the gender perspective, keeping in view that whenever a climate disaster hits, the way it hits a female is different than the way it hits a man.
Sure.
So we need to instill it into the policy as well, because unless it's not written and articulated well in the policy, then of course we cannot make the action to be based upon that policy. And there were some of the learned people, I won't name them, from some of the government departments who were rigid enough to even agree to this, that a disaster affects a woman differently as compared to a man. So I'm talking about Pakistani perspective at the moment, that we are facing resistance in having females in the policymaking group and having them speak for their right and trying to convince the male side that the issues are different. It's a still battle which is going on. And I'm going to say the same thing again. By speaking for your right time and again in decent words, taking help from the documents and the policies by the United Nations and its subwings is the only solution for us to be making a true representation. If today it's 2% or 5% in our country and it's 21% in Africa, By raising the voice again and again, it will lead to 50% at some time. We cannot claim at this moment that by ensuring by the government side that it should be 50-50 representation can be implemented in developing countries, and we will be able to see that perhaps in the next 5 years. It's going to be extremely difficult because the power show exists. We cannot deny that. And change takes lots of years. But by constantly speaking for your right is what's going to make you be visible, what's going to make people listen and then understand what you're saying and perhaps in sometimes accept to what you're saying.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other question? Miss Mariam wants to ask something.
Yes, good morning again, Prof. I am Mariam Shaibu Hassan from Nigeria, and I'm the co-founder of Green Noma Initiative, a social enterprise in aiming to empower women and youth in sustainable agriculture.
Oh, that's
So I'm imagining a society whereby a woman is hindered by a lot of challenges, mostly cultural or religious challenges that will now hinder her from attaining absolute freedom, economic freedom or otherwise. So how can she overcome those challenges and then the fear to leave her comfort zone in order to attain this economic freedom? Can you give some insight, some advice on how to do that? Even though you mentioned them in detail, but I just want additional straightforward advice from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariam. It's a good question because through this, I will be able to briefly sum up the main important part of my talk once again, which might be helpful for those who have joined us today. So, you talked about the cultural, the religious challenges that the female are facing. Let's just keep ourselves stuck to the developing world at the moment. And you talked about the fears that the female face and how can they come out of the comfort zones to gain economic freedom. That's what we're talking about at the moment. So I would say that both in Africa and in Asia, the cultural traits are more or less similar. I have not been a student of the cultural landscapes, but I can comment on that. That in the developing world, mostly the journey is to make bread and butter meet, to make the both ends of the family meet. We do not have enough surplus to continue thinking about um, uh, uh, contributing to the global developments, to become a part of the Nobel Prize game, for example, or the big benchmarks. We are mostly restricted to the basics, to meet the basic necessities of life. And for that, we have our own cultural barriers. In the developing world, there are certain roles that I talked about which are associated with women. And it's a shock to see some of the United States figures as well, because there as well, I quoted in one of the slides that I think 23% of the women had access to child and paid leaves for their family care. So when I talk about the cultural traits, these roles are associated with women. The roles like they are the family caregivers. They have to cook for the family. Sometimes they have to do the groceries as well. They have to look after the sick. They have to take the sick to the hospital sometimes in case of emergencies. And they have to be the listener to the issues of the children. They have to train them to become good citizens, to be responsible people in the family, and so on. So there are so many numerous roles assigned to them, and this is not going to change in a matter of days. It's going to take a mind shift. And again, for mind shifts, woman is the center of power because woman is the one who trains the next generations. So the burden is again going to come to us, the female. We have to train in a nice way the males of the family to help us in sharing some responsibilities. we have to train the children to help us in sharing some of the household chores, not by making an extra effort or doing a great um, benefit for us, by making them understand it's your responsibility. So we need to convey this understanding of responsibility to our children, to the male members of the family, and to the other senior females of the household as well, to help us. So that was something about the cultural one. Now, when we come to the religious bindings and religious challenges, I'm a Muslim, and I believe most of this area of Africa and Asia have Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims at the most, and there are many other religions as well. But I don't think there's any religion in the world that stops women from pursuing a career. Every religion is, I guess, supportive of female empowerment, but within certain domains. For example, if I talk about my religion, Islam, it supports women empowerment. Our last prophet's wife, Hazrat Khatija, rahmatullah alayh, was a merchant herself. So she dealt with trade, and she has been cited in our holy book, the Quran. And then again, it's not nowhere said that all the home chores are responsibility of the female, but yet again, my religion says that females need to look up to men and stay one step behind, especially in terms of decision making. And then they also say that we need to go hand in hand. Discussion is the key to solution. So I think in every religion, women are not being stopped from making a living for their family, contributing for their family development. But in every religion, peace is promoted. In every religion, working hand in hand with the males is suggested. And that's what I'm trying to promote today. The women need to speak for their rights in their limits, in a nice manner, by trying to make the men understand their point of view and make them realize what they're saying has some significance. And then they need to be pushed out of their comfort zones. Nobody can take you out of your comfort zone unless you decide yourself that you have to be in two shoes. You're also responsible to answer to the emails and to the messages and to the reports that are being asked from you to be submitted within a particular amount of time from your workplace. And you are the one who has to take major steps at home. You have to prepare the food for the children, or you need to ensure that your housemaid is helping you do that, or your house help is helping you do that. So you have to be answerable at both the places. Although the burdens can be shared by using technology and sharing responsibilities, and some of the techniques I've shared in my presentation today. So, economic freedom can be attained only by agreeing that I need to get out of my comfort zone and I need to continue to talk about my rights, and I need to work hand in hand with all the genders to make a better community. Mariam, did I answer the question?
Yes, yes, doctor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, any other question?
Please, is there any other question? Okay, if there's no other question, then I thank everyone for joining this meeting, and to our speaker for today. Thank you so much for this impactful presentation.
Thank you so much for having me here to talk about, to say my heart out for women empowerment. And I wish you all the very best. May the planet Earth be the best place we continue to live and leave a good place for our future generations.
Thank you so much, Doc. And we look for having most of this section most often, especially to our young females that are coming up in our communities. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mr. Moss. So I thank you all once again. And with this, it's Allah Hafiz and goodbye from my side. Thank you.